this is Max at MaxCTCG. Thanks for joining me in another video. So in this video, we're going over some cards that are being released, I believe in a Jump promo. There's 3 of them. They're from the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D series, and they're supposed to be based off Yusei's rivals. We'll kind of go through these cards. It'll be a pretty quick video. We'll kind of go through the cards, and then I want to discuss maybe some of the issues about why these types of cards are being made. So stick toward the end if you want to kind of have that discussion. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments and kind of discuss that with you guys. So the first card, we have Bombing Beast Fire Bomber. Level 6 Fire Machine Fusion Effect Monster. Attack 1900, Defense 2400. Materials are 1 Machine Monster, 1 Pyro Monster. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. Okay, so if this card is special summon, you can destroy all monsters your opponent controls with 1900 less attack. That's the same attack this has. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls with 1900 less attack, destroy it, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the monster's original attack. So I guess a couple of things maybe to point out. I believe the Snake Eye cards don't go above 1900 when they have the field spell on the field and they're getting that boost. It is a machine monster and pyro monster kind of fusion, which is I think similar to Pyro Phoenix and similar burn effect. Not as abusable because it's once per turn. That's a good thing that they've done. But overall, this card I think is okay. It has 2 options for it. That kind of make it somewhat decent. Is that it can be a super poly target, but there's probably not going to be a lot of times your opponent's going to have a machine and a pyro on the field. So that's something to keep in mind. I don't know how playable as a super poly target this is. You might use some of your own monsters potentially, and that's where super poly is definitely not as good unless you're removing a very key threat, since it can't be responded to. The other aspect is that if it's sent to the grave, you get an effect. So this is something that you can trigger off any extra deck sending mechanic, the Ultimate Slayer. You can trigger this off the Dogmatica cards like Punishment or Nadir Servant. So there's some potential for it. I think the thing is when it comes with its initial effect to target 1 monster your opponent controls and destroy it, so it's 1900 less attack, you might as well play Entis because it can destroy any card. So it's way more versatile. In time or close to time, you can do a chunk of damage, but it has to be like a weaker monster, so it's probably not going to be too much. I do think that gives it a little bit more dual utility to potentially be played, so it's something to consider with this card. So overall, an okay card, maybe you could see some play, but I don't think it's going to be that much, and most of the time if you're looking for a fusion target for Ultimate Slayer or the Dogmatic Engine, I think you're going to see people lean toward Entis and Garua. This I think would be maybe the 3rd option that people might play if they have a lot of room. Alright, so next we have Infernity Queen, a level 3 Dark Fiend effect monster. Attack 300, Defense 900. You only use the effect of this card's name once per turn, while you have no cards in your hand, so that's the requirement to activate this effect. You can banish 1 dark monster from your grave, then target 1 dark monster you control. It can attack directly this turn. Alright, so this card is terrible. This is worse than the original Infernity cards that were made, and they were pretty busted when they came out, and they're still good. But the problem is the Infernity mechanic, I think, is pretty power crept by not being able to play cards in hand in a format like this where most decks are seeing success because they can fit a lot of non-engine. This deck literally can't use hand traps really well because you don't want to keep them in your hand. So it probably had to be forced to go for specific board breaker approaches, and the deck is very glass cannony. I always liked Infernity. I think it would be cool if they maybe revamped its ability to play, kind of considering the modern game, and maybe allow it to not necessarily be this kind of long combo deck that kind of just recycles 100 Eyes Dragon and just kind of recycling these cards, because overall I don't think what this deck does as a combo deck is even that great in comparison to what modern decks do, especially for how fragile and how much you have to really kind of commit to this glass cannon approach. So it's really unfortunate that this card is pretty much completely unplayable. I think the art is pretty cool overall for a lot of these cards, so it's sad when this happens. And if you do want to see larger pictures of the art, you can find these, I think, on Neuron, and also on my community tab. I printed out the card effects and it has a little bit bigger picture of the images. Right, and then last card we have is Cursed Fire King Doomberg, 1500, Defense 800. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. If you control a Fiend Tuner, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summoned, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, lose a 600 attack to the end of this turn. If this card is destroyed and sent to the grave, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, it loses 400 attack to the end of the turn. This card also kind of sucks. The only thing that has going for it is that you could potentially extend out with it if you have a tuner and make some synchro plays, but that's about all it does. Any card that changes the attack or defense modification stats have to be a bonus and not the main thing, and I guess you could argue the main thing is this can special summon, but you need a tuner. If you don't have a tuner, this is pretty much just an awful card in your hand, and you could probably find better cards that extend out into the field than this for sure. I'd rather just play a danger at this point, because it's always live. I could just Tsuchinoko or Jackalope or just something. Would you like to see sets that have less cards but more playable cards? Maybe instead of giving support 3 new cards, give 2 good cards, instead of 1 okay one and 2 lackluster or 1 really bad one. I think, if the sets were even more condensed, less cards, but better cards, I think that would help with selling the sets, getting people to open up sealed product. I think this could really help, and I think this is kind of a problem in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that we get cards like these that are just awful. And, unfortunately, if we get these in the TCG, I do feel that we might see these in not common, like maybe super to ultra, and I think that'd be very sad just because of how bad these are. So again, the only one that we have that's any good is the bombing beast fire bomber. Who knows when we'll see these since they're jump promos, but unfortunately we're not missing out on too much since we don't know when we'll get them. But again, it is sad when we get cards like this. All right, well, let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.